Right. Is there anybody like me that got hooked in by all this election nonsense? I'm a little ashamed of myself, to be honest, and I had to have my good friend John reel me in and gently place me back into the water before I started to get into a flap by reminding me of my own mantra that I regularly promote when anyone starts talking about politics. I mean, when I used to go to the pub, I used to have a rule called the lob out rule. If I was ever in the company of people that talked about politics for over 15 minutes, I would quietly take my lob out while they're in the middle of the talking and just urinate over them. Usually they're so into what they're talking about that they don't even notice my warm streak, going into their drinks, sprinkling all over the table and soggy in the beer mats. They're so passionate and trapped in their very own stream of consciousness that they're completely oblivious to my dirty little protest. Just, did somebody just buy another round? Yeah, I thought I drank most of this. Anyway, like I was saying, Nigel Farage definitely has a bigger penis than Keir Starmer. Definitely. Well, pints a bit off, innit? I'd start aiming it into their face, in their mouths, just to get them to snap the fuck out of it. Oh fuck, what? Oh my God, what was I talking about politics again? Oh, sorry, Kev. Well, the reason I'm ashamed is of myself is because every Saturday I pop down to see my mate John and have a cup of coffee with him and his lovely mum in the morning. And last Saturday, the Saturday before the local election, I realised that I'd come down with a very bad case of the local election infection, which is a mild, it's mild compared to the general election infection, but equally as irritating, boring and cringe-inducing for those that are around the person that still hasn't cottoned on to the fact that they've been infected. And I don't know whether any of you have caught one of these election infections before, but it's only later on when eventually you shut the fuck up about whatever it is you've been banging on about, and you get out in the fresh air that you finally realise that you've caught a dose. You're all hot and clammy and you start to feel like a fucking arsehole. You got verbal diarrhoea dribbling out of your mouth onto your chin, and those looks that people were giving to each other when you were banging on about your own thoughts and opinions about what this country needs, those looks, they start to register, and it comes to you that they were not implying what you first thought. Alright, you're like, wait a minute, yeah, that wasn't dust in their eyes. Oh my, I think they were rolling their eyes up into their heads at each other because I was talking a load of shit about politics, and they were getting exasperated because I'm the guy that claims to hate the guys that are always talking about politics. I might be coming down with something. Yep, it's the local election infection, okay? A common strain of hypocrititis, you fucking tool. May I suggest you start taking your own advice, switch off all news, stay away from the internet and start listening to music instead of ruining yours and everybody else's evening, you fat cunt. If I could punch myself right now, I would. If it weren't for the fact that I'm recovering from a stroke and I'm considerably more fragile than I used to be, I would clock myself full force in the fucking face repeatedly until I drew blood, just to show you, the viewer, and my good friend John and his lovely mum Alison, how sorry I am for not getting a diagnosis before my visit because it's highly contagious. All it takes is for you to open your mouth a few times and let some words out, and then everybody else has got it, especially if they have a completely different opinion to you. Man, I vowed to put all this voting lack behind, claiming to never give politics a second thought, as if it was some kind of virtue. And whenever I told people that I no longer cared about politics, I would say it in a manner that suggested that I was better than them or more intelligent than them for not doing so, as if I had some sort of handle on a deeper truth. As a matter of fact, I found a couple of weeks ago, I found out that I didn't vote for Keir Starmer because all our ballot papers were found in a carrier bag under the stairs because I forgot to post them. But, you know, admittedly, it was next to his name that I did cross the box. All right, I know this is only an election for local councils, but whatever it is, local, general, left, right, they're all a bunch of fucking weird cunts anyway. All of them. All right, and if you think that any of them give a toss about you, or that things will get better just because your guy got in, okay, you're either too young and haven't been around long enough to recognise the pattern, or you're a fucking moron. It's all about getting in the hot seat one day for them, okay, and doing the bidding of whichever other fucking weird cunt is funding them. All right, you need a lobotomy reversal if you think any of them have the interests of the working man at heart. They don't. None of them. Unless it benefits them. Okay? You know, have you ever met one of these councillors or whatever in person? There's always something off about them. All right? It's like they're under some sort of spell for control freaks that'll do anything not to work a proper job because they don't want to have to share the same space as all of us fucking savages. You know, they're always trying to hide their disdain behind a false smile. Like, I'm not working next to poor people. Okay, they're too thick to be around the likes of me. I didn't go to university to end up in the same building as this fucking lot. Yeah. Anyway, over the last 2 years, I said I would never vote again. Labour, Conservative, you know, they're all a bunch of fucking weird cunts. Then, about a week and a half ago, I saw a clip of the Zach Kozlowski, that's the wrong one, the Zach Polanski guy talking about legalising drugs. And there was also mention of abolishing the monarchy, and my ears pricked up. I'm like, oh, yeah, I kind of like this guy. I like what he's saying. You know, then I have the temerity to go over to a friend's house who I already know is probably going to vote reform, and I tell them about it. Him and his mum. I think they would have respected me more if I just stood up mid-conversation, pulled my trousers down, squatted and took a shit right there in the middle of the living room. Just, you know, don't mind me, I'm just having a crap. Carry on, what were you saying? Sorry, I ate some plums last night, they're going right through me. Carry on. Yeah, just one soundbite off the telly, and that's all it took for me to break the seal. The seal that I invented and would always enforce. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I didn't take the proper precautions to ensure that I wouldn't be affected by simply not watching the news. And here I am trying to justify myself like a politician that's been caught out in a lie by a journalist on national television. I feel ashamed, man. Ashamed, embarrassed, and silly. That's how I feel. I feel silly. And I don't know how to claw back my own self-respect and forgive myself for my own transgression. Apart from using this episode to explain myself in in a manner that makes me feel better and can be offered up as some sort of an apology to my friend and his mum, who has always had a completely different opinion than me as far as politics goes. And seeing as I'm the one that's always slagging off people who talk about politics and spent, that Saturday morning before the election sat in their living room talking about politics, I can't help but cringe. Every time I think about it, I can see myself sat in that armchair. My fat face. Oh man. You know, I imagine this is the same feeling that a professional tennis player would get if he or she were competing in a tournament at Wimbledon, in between points in the middle of a match, and dying to have a good fart. Worried that the television cameras, microphones, might pick up the sound and embarrass themselves. I'll let it out. I'll let it out while taking the serve, so that both the noise of the racket hitting the ball and the grunt I make to exert force will cover the sound of the fart. Everything is quiet. All eyes are on you as you bounce the ball to establish a rhythm and get locked in, so you know exactly where you're going to aim it. Over there, right in the service box, too fast for him to respond quick enough, scoring me an ace and giving me the opportunity to fart for as loud and as long as I please, while the spectators roar and clap with applause, allowing me to empty my ass of all this trapped wind. You take a deep breath. Okay, throw the ball upwards, pull the racket back, standing up on the balls of your feet in the trophy position, and as you swing and let rip, you follow through and shit all over the back of your legs and instantaneously ruin your Daz white shorts, making it look like you've just sat on a steak and kidney pie. Brown specks splattering all over your Dunlop green flash tennis shoes. Just ball completely goes off target and accidentally hits Cliff Richard full force in the eye, and he starts choking on a strawberry he's just put in his mouth. Oh Lord Jesus, I can't breathe. I'm knocking over a jug of Pimm's. David Beckham or some other famous celebrity runs up behind him to administer the Heimlich manoeuvre, and in the middle of all the panic and the pressure that's being applied to his little 82-year-old stick-figured frame festooned with that stupid-looking fucking snakeskin jacket he wore last year, a whole punnet's worth of half-digested Morlin centenary strawberries and cream strapped dribbling out of his tight little bumhole like rabbit droppings, and filling his little underpants, and the one that's stuck in his windpipe shoots out of his garb onto the back of Queen Camilla's head, or into Brian May's perm, whatever the fuck. All that high intensity 8 hours a day training and years of discipline that you have endured to come this far in the world of tennis, and you end up being seeded as being the #1 sports blooper of all time. Man, shunned by a fickle British public for traumatising a national treasure in his twilight years. So much so that he couldn't enjoy another Wimbledon ever again before it's lights out, shuffling off this mortal coil, a deeply depressed and unfulfilled man, never to recover from the deep-seated trauma you instilled into arguably one of the best recording artists this country has ever seen almost choked to death in a reserved seat at a tennis match in Wimbledon. laying on his deathbed in his Barbados luxury home, reflected, "Oh yes, I haven't eaten a strawberry ever since. The only thing I ever really enjoyed after I was retired from singing was strawberries, tennis." Game, set, match. Not only have you embarrassed yourself, but you've also deprived an elderly man of the only thing that brought him any real joy in the twilight of his life. When all he should have done is asked the Empire to stop the game so you could take a quick toilet break to sort your ass out. But because you spent your whole career as a professional tennis player being vehemently against tennis players taking toilet breaks during a match, always behind the scenes banging on about, I think professional tennis players that take a toilet break during a tennis match should be disqualified from the competition, as I believe that taking a toilet break gives them ample time to regain their energy at a point when the other player is at an advantage. I believe this is a form of cheating, and it should no longer be allowed. It's not fair. When really all you should have done, is just shut the fuck up and do whatever it is you had to do to ensure that you can play the game comfortably by utilising the toilet rules that have already long been established in the event of such a situation, instead of stubbornly upholding your values and permanently soiling not only your tennis whites but your entire fucking legacy and reputation as being one of the only professional tennis players to not support the rights of professional tennis players when it comes to having the freedom to empty their bowels in private during a professional tennis match, but then publicly emptied your bowels violently live on camera and having the 4K ultra high definition image of your dirty stinking shit smeared ass beamed all over the fucking planet by satellite to be seen, copied, shared and turned into countless memes forever and ever. That's kind of how I've been feeling over the last week or so. Like I've shit my shorts. I've not only let myself down, and my good friend John and his lovely mother down, but I've also let the integrity of my YouTube channel down too, making hollow the words I once uttered repeatedly in previous episodes, and it literally just took one clip to get me to take the bait, like a carp gliding calmly through the water, minding its own business, content to just be swimming around in the fresh water during the summer, only to catch a whiff of a bit of sweet corn in its nostrils. That smells nice. Smells both sweet and salty, unlike the same old boring bland bits of vegetation that I've been nibbling on over the last few months. What's that bright yellow shiny thing over there in the distance? Looks like a bit of sweet corn, one of my most favourite foods. Hey! Swim past it a few times to make sure it's the real deal and it's not a ruse like the last time you ate a bit of sweet corn and got pulled out of the water and almost died of slow asphyxiation. Yeah, I don't ever experience that again. 1 second, I'm under the surface, getting ready to tuck into my favourite meal, which is very much a delicacy in these parts, and the next second, I've got a hook in the mouth, and I'm feeling the pain of all my internal organs being crushed by my own body weight as I flap around on the rubber mat attached to some scales on the side of the lake, and end up having my picture taken with some old bloke wearing a fucking sun hat. I was traumatised for weeks after that. It took me a month just for my lip to heal. I'd rather starve than go through that sort of pain again. It does smell nice though. Maybe if I just give it a cautious nibble around the edge and take in some of that exquisite flavour without actually just flapping around on a glass. Fucking caught again. Well, I remember a week before the Brexit referendum in 2016, the lads at work who previously couldn't give a toss about politics were suddenly quoting statistics and discussing the prospect of a national health service that would no longer be under so much strain thanks to the millions of pounds that was going to be injected into it, according to Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. And the lads all of a sudden were speaking as if they were seasoned pundits of the political arena and knew what they were talking about all of a sudden. Well, the money that we give to the EU, we can spend that money here in our own country on our own people and save the NHS from collapsing under the weight of increased migration. I'd be mocking them in the depot and I go, fucking listen to you lot banging on about politics. What the fuck do you know about politics, you fucking bunch of divs? Stop worrying about the boats and the economy or whatever other fucking shit they're talking about on your fucking phones, and let's concentrate more on the fact that the company we're working for is making millions of pounds worth of profit every year, but won't even fork out for the heating to be fixed during the winter and the air conditioning to be fixed during the summer. So that we're all caught in a perpetual loop of either developing hypothermia or heat stroke while trying to perform hard manual labour in a job that's essential in making sure the sanitation of South Wales runs smoothly, and telling those corporate cunts at head office that we ain't going to take it anymore, and if they don't start paying us properly for the job we're doing or start investing in our health and safety by creating a more healthier and safer working environment with all the fucking spare cash they're making at our expense, so that management won't be on our ass all the time docking our already minuscule wage for taking time off due to us always getting ill and creating an increasingly bigger workload. There's a good chance we won't have to worry about the future of the NHS because we'll all be fucking dead already and they'll have to clean the bins up themselves thanks to the conditions we're being forced to work in. Man, look at the size on that rat over there. It's eating my fucking sandwich, right? Oh, shut up, Kev, you fucking lefty. Baby's gay, innit? Lefty. Man, of course, I myself wouldn't stand up to management either until it was too late. I'm saying all this in retrospect with a heavy dollop of disappointment in myself as a man who can talk a good game when he's gobbing off on his YouTube channel, but didn't really have the minerals to speak up when it truly mattered, at the risk of losing what little fucking money I was making by breaking my back in order to be high and drunk enough to get through the working week without beating Debbie, the fucking wannabe hard man boy racing fuckhole, to death for constantly grabbing my ass every time I bent down, and then stringing myself up from a tree in the local woods around the corner with a placard saying, "Fuck this shit." Right, I've done it again, man. Go on for that fucking job. Oh, right. Well, I need to have to take a break a second. My phone went off. Oh, sorry about that. Put her on silent. Oh, fuck, Right. Anyway, after my vow of never talking about politics, last week I overheard a soundbite while my mother is watching the news relating to something that I myself believe is for the good of the country as a whole, which is the legalisation and regulation of drugs. And I say this as a man who spent the best part of 3 decades out of his fucking tree and is now sober, but living in a community where crack cocaine and heroin, along with the usual cigarettes, alcohol and sugar, has taken hold of the lives of some of the people that are living here. And stealing all their fucking teeth. Yeah, I was walking down to the doctor's surgery the other day to collect some medication, and it was like being in an episode of The Walking Dead. Okay, I'm gonna quit. You know, my point being, the war on drugs, it isn't working. Okay, it's not working. And I can't go to the shops around the state after sundown because there's a bigger chance that I might get mugged by someone. Alright? You know, someone looking for money to buy their drugs because they're addicted, or run over by a drug dealer on an e-bike with no front headlamp. They're like fucking ninjas, these kids. And you can't distinguish between who are the good ninjas and who are the bad ninjas. You know, you got the ones that really are gangsters who are dressed in black puffer jackets and balaclavas. Then you got the ones who are pretending to be gangsters by dressing up in black puffer jackets and balaclavas because they want to impress some girl because they've been told by some fucking tits online influencer that every girl likes a bad boy. So they're riding back and forth outside her house and around the streets at night in the hope that she'll catch a glimpse of them on their new e-bike that their mothers have bought on the Never Never and be under the impression that they're a street hustler. Oh, when all they're doing is knocking over random elderly people and stroke victims that are out enjoying a stroll in the evening. Oh, I'm like, oh yeah, I like walking around the estate on a summer night. It fills me with a feeling of nostalgia. You know, knocks me off my feet and I split my Swede open all over the pavement. Fucking bloody kids! You fucking bastard! My brain's just falling out my fucking head, you fucking... Man, people are scared to go out at night, though. I mean, during the pandemic, okay, someone around the corner had their belly sliced open with a machete, intestines spilling out. You know, the helicopter ambulance landed right in front of our house. But, you know, because of a drug deal gone wrong. This is what happens when something is highly illegal but still easily available and is never not going to be available because there's so much money to be made by people who don't give a fuck about going to jail. They don't give a fuck. You know, what's the difference between spending 40 hours a week plus overtime in a job just to get the bare minimum when you can commit a crime that can get you 10 times what you get in a year in just a few weeks? You know, that's why there's so much crime, alright? That's why there's so much young men that don't want to work. It's got fuck all to do with being lazy and everything to do with not wanting to waste time being underappreciated and still fucking skint. No, I'm not condoning it, alright? I'm just saying it like it is. Yeah, addiction is a terrible thing. I've seen people's lives destroyed by it. From sugar, cigarettes, alcohol and gambling all the way up to Class A drugs. It's devastating. You know, then again, addiction is also the reason why you can now get a blowjob for just a tenner in one of the flats at the end of the street. So, you know, weighing up the option. What I'm trying to say is the older you get, the more you start to realise that the politics is just, it's all about compromise. If you want to pay a low price for a quick, no strings attached blowjob, you have to risk your own safety by entering a notorious block of flats on a rundown council estate where some junkie could very well be waiting behind the door with a baseball bat, ready to pounce just as you're about to pop your cookies. Yeah. Nick your wallet and threaten to knock your block off if you don't give them your PIN number so that they can empty what little money you do have left in your bank account as a group of lads dressed in black puffer jackets and balaclavas keep you hostage until he comes back with the money and mock you as you sit there with your trousers around your ankles feeling fucking stupid. Look at his cock, bruv. Yeah, it looks like one of those shrubs on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of You. Look at it, yeah. But if you want a free blowjob while being in the safety of your own home, you might have to invest in a serious relationship with a woman that has a crap taste in films. I know I'm getting things a bit mixed up, but I feel you may be able to catch my drift. Okay, compromise. You see, I like the idea of the drug laws being changed and having cheaper renewable energy. I like the idea of taxing billionaires and not having to foot the bill for a family that live in a palace in the middle of one of the most expensive cities in the country, while I got to divvy out over 20% of fuck all. And when I hear those sentiments being aired by a politician for a change on the television while I'm in the middle of eating my tea, I'm going to take notice. Did he just make a joke about being the Green Party and legalising cannabis? Is that what he's... Hey, found my guy. I like the idea of going to a weed cafe and getting stoned while drinking a cup of coffee, talking about the meaning of life. The thought of being able to buy some magic mushrooms in a head shop that gives you light visuals and giggles, without having to worry about being criminalised for it, it's worth putting a cross in a box for. Okay, fuck all this sitting in a pub bollocks, pickling my brains while being surrounded by pissed up fucking wankers getting all aggro and taking all their frustrations out on each other because, their favourite team didn't win at the football or their politician didn't get in. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Yeah, you want some? You fucking want some? Fucking... I'd love to have a drink, to be honest, but one thing leads to another with me, and if I went down the pub and had a drink today, by this time next week, I'd be waking up on the other side of Cardiff, naked, on a bed next to a woman with only 3 teeth in her head. Yeah, she'd be like, "Oh, did you mean what I said last night when you said you wanted to get married? Will you go down on me again? Oh, you made me feel so good. Man, I gotta get drunk now just to forget again." I've always worked hard. I pay my taxes. Why can't I enjoy the drugs that make me a better person instead of being faced with a choice of nothing or something that turns me into a turbo helmet super cunt? I just want something that's going to mellow me out and make me horny. Where's the harm in that? Okay, I'd rather do that than get drunk and end up like the majority of bitter, miserable cunts in Britain that have spent the best years of their lives pissing their wages up the wall because it's what society says is acceptable, when if they'd actually give other drugs a go without mixing it with alcohol, they'd feel 100 times better and change their whole fucking outlook and start to realise how dull their life has become thanks to alcohol. Oh, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I realised all my mates are a bunch of boring bitter cunts when I haven't had a drink. Yeah, I fucking can't stand it. I used to think I enjoyed their company. Turns out the only thing any of us ever had in common was we've known each other for a long time and being fucking pissed. I've spent hundreds, thousands of pounds a month to try and convince myself that this is what I enjoy. I'm fucking miserable. I've eaten one little jelly sweet, no different from a Haribo Fantastic, apart from some THC, that cost me equivalent of a pint of beer, and I sat in front of the television for 6 hours on YouTube, listening to all my favourite tunes and music videos from when I was a kid. It's fantastic. Then I started to look at my wife, and I saw her, and I'm like, man, I saw the woman that I fell in love with when I was a teenager. Okay, and I fucked her for the first time in a decade, and it felt great. I haven't come that hard since I was a teenager, and she actually came too. Fuck the pub. Okay, I'm going to be staying in on the weekends and getting my old vinyl records out. All right, where's the fucking problem? I want to feel good after coughing up money for a drug. It defeats the whole purpose otherwise. I want to feel good and have a laugh and, take some mushrooms and maybe actually talk to God. Not throw up over the vagina of a 65-year-old alcoholic, that I pulled in some local pub because she asked me back to her granny flat, and when I opened her labia to administer oral sex because I was too drunk to fuck, some baked beans come spilling out. I don't like waking up with a hangover. Crushing guilt, shame, suicidal ideation, gonorrhea, broken knuckles, black eye with a criminal record, and flashbacks of calling some hard man's wife a fucking cunt because she barged past me at the back. Why can't I be allowed to just eat a chocolate space cake that I purchased from a cafe and fall asleep while watching Apocalypse Now instead? Okay? Fucking hell. Therefore, after catching a clip on television of the Zach Polanski fella saying that he would like to legalise such things, I thought for the first time in my life, do you know what? I'm going to vote Green. And I stupidly mentioned this to my mate John and his lovely mum. Yeah. So, what? What the fuck you voting Green for, you fucking dickhead? Are you stupid? Anybody that would vote Green is fucking stupid. I just want to get stoned without being prosecuted, that's all. I don't mean no offence by it. Then he shows me something on his phone about a woman in the Green Party being hypocritical when it comes to the housing of migrants. Where she's all for it in one clip, and then in another clip it is dead against migrants being housed in her constituency or where she lives. Yeah, I mean, I consider myself to be left wing, but that doesn't mean I don't recognise the danger of having undocumented migrants coming into our communities. I've said it in previous episodes. It's frightening enough where I live as it is, with all the paranoid schizophrenics that haven't taken their megs and are smoking pounds and pounds of high strength skunk weed and going down the conspiracy rabbit hole on their phones thinking everybody that gives them eye contact is a government agent out to get them. The junkies looking for ways to get money. Okay, pissheads angry at the world, looking for some random people to take it all out. It's hard enough trying to deal with danger as it is. And as much as I have no problem with immigration, all right, there still needs to be a proper vetting process. It's not foreigners that scares me, it's psychopaths and sex offenders and terrorists, okay? We got enough fucking British psychopaths and sex offenders here as it is. Alright, but, if you're a politician and got no problem with them being housed in communities where people are already struggling and afraid, but refuse to integrate them into your community or your constituency, you're full of shit. These are the kinds of people that are on television say things like, well, people in Britain are becoming more and more right-wing. Well, yeah, because they're desperate and they're scared and they're sick to death of being told how to think by people who have absolutely no idea what it's like to be living without a safety net. And are always banging on to you about the plight of those that have less when they themselves have more than most. It's like Bono. It's fucking excruciating. It's like those chuggers, the charity muggers you get on the high street with their high-vis waistcoats and clipboards, asking you to sign up to pay £2 a month towards some animal charity where one overripe banana probably gets shared amongst 50 manky gorillas that end up beating each other to death just to get a bite, because £1.99 of that £2 donation goes towards some smarmy cunt in an office living like a fucking king under the guise of saving the whales or helping people that are living in the Congo, and employing some impressionable first-year upper-middle-class university student with his blonde dreadlocks who thinks that just because he got a part-time charity job for the summer that he's the only thing that's standing in the way of world extinction. Approaching random people in the street with his posh accent and healthy, fresh looks and boundless amounts of positive energy. Hello, can I stop you there, sir? Can I stop you? No, sorry, I haven't got any money, I'm afraid, I'm skint. No worries at all, sir, no, it's not your money I want, sir. No, just hand over your bank details and we will slowly siphon it out of your account instead. You'll receive an adoption certificate with the name of the gorilla you've adopted with your donation. No, sorry, mate, okay, I haven't got much money in the bank at the moment either. Sorry about that. How about £1 a month then, instead? Okay, how about £1? You seem to have enough money to buy yourself something from Primark's. Yeah, I saw you walking in there earlier and you didn't have that Primark bag on you at all. Eh. You're like, listen, mate, I know you're only doing your job and you mean well, but I've told you 3 times I haven't got any money. Okay? And it's embarrassing when you're asking me in public, okay? And you're trying to make me feel bad about how good I've got it when I haven't really ever had it that good. You're half my age, and judging by the plum in your mouth, you got it great. So how about you pay £2 a month yourself before I hang you up from a lamppost, buy your dreadlocks, and force feed you that fucking pigeon? You stuck-up little twat. Have some fucking manners. Have some fucking respect and compassion for the people that are right in front of your fucking face. You cunt. Oh, what's his problem? Well, doesn't he care about gorillas? I bet you he doesn't even think about the rainforest or the plight of those in Iran. I bet you he voted reform. Yes. Yeah, and he's a misogynist and a homophobe. And after university, he cuts off all his dreadlocks and starts a career in politics. First he's on the left, then the right, going from helping the poor to blaming them for the state of the economy while his expenses are being claimed. Oh, well, we can't tax the wealthy because they're the ones that are funding our campaign. What with the complimentary hotel rooms and expensive meals I've been getting as I go up and down the country shitting on people who need to use the benefit system and talking about how they should work harder. Yeah, it would simply be rude for us to ask them to pay for anything more. The wealthy, that is. Something like that. I know it's not as simple, and I'm being facetious. But no, people are frightened. People are frightened, and that's why this immigration thing is such an issue. Just the other day, okay, I'm walking back home from the chemist, and I see a Middle Eastern man hanging around outside the local nursery school. And I thought he looked a bit sketchy. Sorry, okay, but that's what I thought, okay? That's how I felt, and I started to worry because my great niece is in there, and I got all these thoughts going through my head because of the current climate and the terrorist threat levels being severe, and I started hanging around in the distance, clocking him to see what he was up to. You know, I'm thinking, what's he doing, man? What the fuck's he doing? Why is he hanging around outside the school? What the fuck is he doing hanging around outside the school for? What the fuck? You know, then his wife walks out with 2 little children that run up to him, happy to see their dad. Man, you know, I felt terrible then for thinking such a thing, but these are the times we're living in, and it's terrifying. And I completely understand why people are so angry, because you just got to raise a concern about these things, and then you get judged by the type of people that live in areas that are much more affluent and safer, and they assume that just because you're fearful that you must be racist, when the majority are just worried because they're constantly being being bombarded with fear-inducing news stories and right-wing grifters on social media making a packet from fanning the flames and creating even more division and tension, upping the ante for their own financial benefit, and then thanks to all the fucking thick, stupid, backwards ass fucking cunts that just start smashing up their own communities and hurling abuse at innocent people that are just like them but have a different colour skin. You know, the rest of us straight white working class men get tarred with the same fucking brush, and then we have to be overly nice whenever we're around people of colour because we don't want them thinking that we don't like them. Hello, hiya, hey, hiya, oh, hey, hello there, hiya. There's a Palestinian family, okay, a woman and 4 daughters that have moved in down the road, and because sometimes the odd miserable fucking drunk cunt will be shitty to them for no reason down the shops, you know, I make an effort and I make up for it by going, hello there, hello, how are you okay? Yes, lovely hot weather we got here today, isn't it? Yeah, make the most of it though. Yeah, take care now, enjoy the day. Yeah, see you again. You know, she's probably walking away thinking, and you don't even know what hot weather is, you fat fuck. Oh, why are you smiling at me all the time? It's creeping me out, you fucking weirdo. People say, yeah, well, you wouldn't say that if it was a house full of Palestinian men of fighting age that moved in instead of women. And well, of course I wouldn't. Okay, firstly, I'm not attracted to men. Admittedly, I did have a bit of a dabble when I was on a bender in my cocaine and ecstasy years, but now I'm pretty much a ladies' man. However, I'd still be pleasant. I wouldn't be horrible to them or make them feel unwelcome. You know, what more do you want me to say? I mean, in the distant past, when people from other countries moved into the community and we wanted to find out if they were fucking dickheads or not, okay, we'd just knock on the door and ask them if they wanted to play a game of football. Can that not be an option anymore? Do we have to go straight to, yeah, go back where you came from, you fucking cunt? Yeah. Or can we not say, there's a field around the corner, 11 of you guys versus 11 of us, we'll bring the football. Yeah? You know, that's what British people always used to do, isn't it? You know, in the good old days when men were men and we all got along. You know, as much as I fucking hate watching football and people talking about it, alright, I'm always up for a kickabout. Even, you know, my left side's fucked at the moment from the stroke, you know, but that's exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be having a kickabout. I mean, there's children on the way, there's children having a kickabout right now, including 2 of the Palestinian girls. I mean, forgive me for celebrating our culture, but I was always under the impression that that's what a man that is both British and a Christian would do. You know, well, that's what we used to do. You know, maybe I'm too British, maybe I'm too Christian, that's what it is. I mean, you know, that's the problem with patriotism nowadays. For some people, being British is it just goes as far as flying fucking flags and go, hey, 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 beat you, hey, 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 my team beat yours, hey, hey, beer, hey, hey. Alright, playtime's over now, fuckface. Back to work! The hotel, which is 5 minutes down the road, was being used for migrants, okay, a couple of years. And unfortunately, they never gave us any trouble. Not that I know of. And one of them eventually got a job as a security guard down the local supermarket. No people around you on that job because, you know, it can be quite dangerous. Now the hotel is being used for people with complex needs and those that have just come out of prison and got nowhere to go. 2 of them tried to lift my wallet down by the petrol station the day after Boxing Day, 6 weeks after I had my stroke. You know, it was the end of 2024 actually, and they were harassing women that were going in and out of the petrol station and just walking into the local shops, stealing stuff, and, you know, on a daily basis, you know, calling everybody neighbour. You know, and they're still doing it now, some of them. You know, what are you going to do, neighbour? What are you going to do? Oh, what are you going to do? I mean, that's what he said when I was walking down to the page. He just come out to me, you know, when I was walking down the shop. He's like, what's happening, neighbour? Safe, bruv? Hey, you got a cigarette? Have you, bruv? You got a cigarette? I'm like, oh, no, sorry, mate. I don't smoke anymore. I've had a stroke. Then I see him glance over my shoulder, and there's another one standing behind me, you know, like he was going for my side pockets. I'm like, you better fuck off. Oh, calm down, bruv. Calm down. What are you getting vexed for? You know, I wasn't doing anything. Yeah, you know, people are like, oh, do you see those fucking weirdos from the hotel shouting at all the cars and approaching all the women? Yeah, but, you know, he was born here and he's white, so I guess it's not that bad, really, is it? Yeah, as long as he speaks the language. You know, it's just the brown ones I'm worried about. Fuck. You know, there was a Somali family that moved in across the road in Veronica's old house in the early 1990s, and the two boys did beat up a couple of girls around in the street and threatened a little boy with a kitchen knife and stole his football. So there you go. There it is, you know. I know it's different for other people in other areas that have had different experiences. I'm just speaking for myself here, and I'm doing my best to have a balanced and positive outlook in a country that is becoming increasingly negative. Life's hard enough as it is, alright? You can't win whatever your opinion. You're either a far-right thug or a communist lefty, depending on who you're standing up for at any given moment. And if you say you're in between, you know, and you can empathise with people on both sides of the argument, you're a coward then. Even though you're not willing to blindly follow any group just for the sake of it and are liable to trigger the extremists on both sides. Oh, listen to him sitting on the fence. You need to pick a side, you do, Kev. Whatever you're not on. You know, okay, anything that doesn't involve the support of people like Jacob Rees-Mogg and the Conservatives, or Jeremy Kyle, the guy from Most Haunted. You know, they're both reform. How's that for starters? Okay, I hate all that GB News Talk TV vibe. It doesn't sit right with me. It's like they're trying to relate to the working man in a way that just fucking grates. You know, Labour can fuck off and all now. Twice I voted for them. First time after all that annoying Cool Britannia bullshit. Way when Tony Blair sent one of my closest mates to an illegal war without the proper protective equipment for over a fucking year. And this shower we got in now, you know, even though I didn't post my vote on the lap, but, you know, time for a change. So I dug my heels in and I said, yeah, I'm probably going to vote Green on account of the weed thing. Then my mate John, okay, shows me a retweet on his phone from the Zach Polanski bloke, retweeting a post criticising a police officer for kicking a mentally ill man in the head after he stabbed 3 people. Which is fair enough, as I'm concerned, as far as I'm... You know, sometimes you need a wolf to catch a wolf. But, you know, I'm still too impressed by the weed thing to be swayed. I mean, like I said, they're all fucking walking contradictions, like the rest of us. And when it comes up to any election, well, whatever party you vote for, that party will always be spending a fuckload of money taking clips and sound bites from all the other parties, putting them together in order to smear and sabotage by twisting things to make it appear that they're saying one thing, when really that's not what they're actually saying at all. And all parties are guilty of this, but amidst all the smear campaigns and the propaganda and bullshit promises, there are genuine hard-working people who are shit-scared, fed up, and nothing ever fucking changes. Not really. It's just a constant tit for tat going round and round in circles, and you get people on both sides that can't wait for the other side to fuck up. They can't wait for the latest atrocities to go, see, yeah, I told you they were bad. Yeah, I told you. And then they make you feel like then that you need to justify yourself and point out the reasons why you won't vote for the side that they voted for. I'm like, I'm not voting for a party that Jeremy Kyle is connected to, or or that bloke that used to present Most Haunted. Who's going to be joining them next? Jerry Springer and Mystic Meg? Fucking Russell Grant? Which kind of makes sense when you see that Charlie Mullins fella, the plumbing guy who was also back in reform. I saw him on television the other day. He looks like one of those those psychic mediums that you see doing live shows in the local sports and social club. Man, what you say? What you say? What are you fucking having a piss? Are you taking a fucking piss? I got an OBE off Queen Elizabeth for my plumbing business. What you ever done, you fucking fat cunt? Man, I got my preliminary swimming certificate in year 4 when I was in the juniors, and came 3rd in the egg and spoon race for Team Gwent on Sports Day. Also, I made an ex-girlfriend come 3 times in 1 year. Do you want me to go on? Those are just a few of my many different and varied achievements. Unlike you fucking one-trick pony, anybody can turn a fucking tap on or replace a washer and pull a flush. Try balancing an egg on a spoon while running at the age of 6. Then we'll talk. Put more arrows in your quiver. Diversify your talents and make the most of what you got. I can put you in touch with an agent that's looking for a Barry Manilow tribute act. You got enough money for singing lessons. Times change. It's not all about you and what you've done and what you want, so fucking pipe down. All these right-wingers drinking glasses of beer on their Talk TV segments to give us the impression that they're down with the common man because, well, that's exactly what a real British bloke would do. Just sit there with a pint of non-alcoholic beer so that we won't get into trouble with any watchdogs, and watch all those thick cunts in Zombieland, all you fucking thick cunts in Zombieland, watch them think that we're on their side. yeah, all you have to do is get the average white working class man to listen, is to let him think that you're getting pissed in the workplace, to give him the impression that, we're rebellious, seeing as they would all be fired if they themselves did it in their job, and we'll talk like we got we're concerned about their struggle, uneducated fuckholes that they are. Patronising, man, patronising. I mean, Jeremy Kyle, he always looks like he's about to blow a fuse. He reminds me of one of those velociraptors from Jurassic Park, searching for fresh meat to publicly humiliate, accuse of lying, and forced to commit suicide for mainstream entertainment. Whenever I've come across him speaking about the working class, it looks like he's trying his best to keep a lid on all the hatred and bile he feels towards us, trying to stay within the boundaries of good taste so that he doesn't lose his job again, but fighting the urge to push the envelope and say how he really feels. I hate them. I fucking hate them. I hate them all with their cheap tracksuits and tight leggings. Fucking lazy cunts. They're like rats. They breathe like... If I had it my way, I'd throw them all on an open fire to keep warm. They make me sick one day. One day, I'm going to buy a machine gun and a fuck ton of ammunition, and I'm going to stand on a building in the middle of a shopping centre, and I'm going to... Dude, you need to relax. Okay, have a bit of this chocolate space cake I made with some super strength skunk weed, and fuck off to sleep. It's not poor people's fault you lost your show. Man up and have some character that isn't fueled by the need to exploit British people for money. Life's too short, you miserable sod. Sometimes it looks like his head's going to explode one day, like that bloke at the beginning of David Cronenberg Scanners. Christians. Yeah, we're Christians. Fuck off, . Place a bet if that's going to make you feel any better, Jeremy. I mean, Jeremy Kyle had a thousands of pounds a day gambling addiction. Thousands of pounds a day gambling addiction. I'm sure he can relate to us. Yet his programme on which he judges addicts was sponsored by Foxy Bingo. Yeah, I know I'm not the first person to point this out, but it's worth noting when it comes to the characters you're listening to and agreeing with regarding the country and the devastating effect gambling has had on many British families, including mine. You know, every fucking advert nowadays is for gambling. You know, you ever get the feeling you're being cheated, you fucking morons? Oh, yeah, but, you know, come on, Kev, you know, he never actually took money from Foxy Bingo himself, yeah? You know, the money didn't go to him, it went to ITV. That's not the point. It's the principle. You don't see me hobbling around the estate, giving out contact details for drug dealers now that I'm clean and sober. Hey, kid, yeah, don't do drugs, they're really bad for you, but if you want to buy some, ring this number here, eh? Nigel Farage, an already very wealthy man doing cameos, bigging up the IRA when he wants to be in charge of the British Army. Hey, there you go. There's some real true grit and integrity in action right there. Oh yeah, but he's doing it for the money, kid. You know, it's just a side hustle. Principles! He's already got enough money. He's got millions. Oh, okay then, Kev. What about hypno-boobs? Google hypno-boobs, Kev. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. My guy sucks too. What can I say? I guess it all comes down to which party you think is going to fuck you the least hardest, in the hope that it's going to be different when it usually always ends up being the same. Oh, we're speaking for the people. Yeah, like fuck you are, like fuck you are. You know, I should have thought about this sooner, actually, because I've said, let's vote for whoever is going to fix the local swimming pool and build a community centre. Create a space where people can mingle for a couple of hours. Coffee mornings, book swaps, a bit like one of the hub centres, just more local. I don't mind, I'll work there. You know, get people to talk to the younger generations on the estate and try to deter them from getting involved in criminality and teach them to lift each other up instead of putting others down. Explain things, you know, about why people are the way they are and encourage them to be kind. Get them to learn how to create arts and crafts and making music. Encourage them to express themselves. I mean, we live in a time where we have the technology to film and edit with a phone. You know, we could have a little independent film festival where everyone could do a 5-minute short movie about themselves and their lives and show it to other people in the community so that they can get to know them and understand them a bit more. Jumble sales, you know, the list could, you know, it's just, we've lost all these things in our immediate area where I'm from. Okay, people don't talk that much anymore. I hardly know anyone in my street. Yeah, and I've lived here for almost 50 years. Let's get back to getting to know each other and have some street parties, football matches. That's why it seemed better in the good old days. You just got fuck all to do with politicians or political parties. They were all a bunch of fucking cunts back then. Cunts. You know, the only reason it seemed better is because we were all young and had our whole lives ahead of us. And times were different in the sense that the technology was fucking shite. And there wasn't so much of a fear factor as there is now with our phones telling us that Jihadi John is hiding under the stairs and some bloke in a wig is going to pop up out of the women's toilet at Roath Park. Like, you know... Then again, saying that, I do remember people used to get freaked out if they heard someone with an Irish accent. Yeah, there's a whole family of them down there. Yeah, with their ginger hair and weird accents. Yeah, sometimes during the summer I can hear them speaking in a different language. Gaelic or something. Yeah, I wonder what he's got in that rucksack. I think they're all terrorists. I bet you he's in the IRA. I bet you, yeah. Same shit, different era. Alright? You know, I mean, it would just be nice to live in a country where if you have a full-time job, you're able to live comfortably and start a family without always being on the breadline, and be able to get stoned instead of drunk without breaking the law. But then I also want police officers to have the permission to kick a terrorist in the head without fear of judgment or losing their job when people have already been attacked. I don't care about that guy's rights, okay? Sorry. I don't care if he's mentally ill. I know it might not be his fault and he might be suffering from a psychotic episode, but, you know, if he's already attempted to murder a passerby, which could be you, me, any one of our loved ones, I don't care about his backstory. Okay, I don't care about what he's been through in the past that has compelled him to do such a thing. He needs to be kicked in the head. And that goes not only for those committing acts of terrorism in the name of religion, politics, or because they've forgotten to take their medication, but also for the average Billy Big Bollocks in the pub or wandering around the estate during the summer months, you know, his top off, bareback, attacking random people in the street because he's had too much to drink at the pub or in the house or had too much stiff. Yeah, you know, that, you know, what are you looking at? You fucking want some, you fucking want... You know, I don't care if he's Welsh, okay? He could be the whitest person that ever lived, okay? I don't care if he's British born. I don't care if he's come on over. He could be my best mate. If he's intent on harming others, whether it be with a knife, with a bomb, or just his bare hands, taser him, kick him in the head, drag him into a nearby water fountain and fucking drown him. I do not give a fuck. There's way too many innocent people getting hurt for no other reason than some cunt is having a bad day and can't control their emotions or can't handle their favourite drug. And I've been the victim of enough random attacks in my life to warrant me feeling this way, okay? Fuck 'em! Man. I don't know whether it's to do with the local elections or just the current climate. Well, you know, social media. I know that the Tommy Roberts guy is organising another protest in London, but there's a few people around here banging on about flags, okay? You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I would never disrespect the flag or anyone's flag, especially the Union Jack. You know, my grandparents fought in the Second World War, and I have close friends who are ex-military and a war veteran, and I know what it means, and I know how important it is. I just hate it when people purposely use our flags to be antagonistic or get offended by somebody putting up a flag that they themselves don't recognise or approve of. I mean, for me, you know, I'd be offended if somebody had a flag with a swastika on or an ISIS flag. You know, they're the two that I can think of off the top of my head. You know, that's when I'd be offended, but some people just take it too far and get triggered by anything that doesn't relate to them or whatever fucking tribe that they identify with. You know, I had it recently, one of the neighbours, you know, I'm sat outside in the garden, I gotta be careful, you know. Guy comes out, he said, do you know what, Kev, I'm gonna tell everybody in the street to put a Welsh flag or a British flag up if they got one. Yeah, they've got a Ukrainian flag painted on the gate down there and a Palestinian flag over there. You know, you should get a Welsh one up, Kev. Buy one from the petrol station or from the Asda. Oh, fuck off, you sad cunt. I'm not forking out for a flag just to please you. What the fuck? I already got a Union Jack sewn into the arm of my super dry parka that I wear during the winter, and there's a Welsh flag on a tea towel in the kitchen. What more do you want? Fucking arsehole. You know, the Palestinian family put up a Palestinian flag because it's their house and there's a war going on in Palestine. The Ukrainian bloke put the Ukrainian flag up because it's its house and there's a war going on in the Ukraine. They're not doing it to try and establish a takeover, you fucking snowflake. You fucking arsehole. You know, no wonder this country is fucked with fucking morons like that. You know, grown men getting fucking triggered. You know, I don't need to let people know I'm Welsh. I'm Welsh. I'm me. I am what I am. I consider myself to be what? I'm born in Wales, living in the capital, Wales. You know, truth is, I'm part French, part Romanian, part English. Heinz, 52 varieties. Put your fucking flag up. Nobody else gives a shit except you. You know, the Palestinian or Ukrainian families, you know, they probably don't even fucking notice. They're not looking out their windows spying on you. You know, that Welsh family over there just put a flag up in the garden. I'm not happy. This means war. Fuck. And then he points out to another flag across the road from around the back from me, and he goes, what about that one over there? See it? The black one with the yellow cross, where the Southies used to live? Where are they from? What flag is that? That's the flag of St. David, you dozy twat. It's Welsh. Me, I don't give a toss about flags, and even I fucking know that. Or, you know, or are you just looking for things that you don't understand while walking the dog so that you can go back to the house and you got something else to whinge about to the missus? Do yourself a favour, roll a joint, have a puff, and just have a good fuck instead. Stroll on. Yeah, one day I'm going to put a flag up in my garden or up in my window of my mother's vagina. Alright, that'll send out the right message. That'll send out the message I'm trying to get across. Every year on my birthday, I'll go up in the loft and, you know, for example, say project some old Super 8 film that my father recorded way back in the early 1970s when he knelt down right between my mother's legs that were high up on stirrups, and project the footage of my birth up on the side of the house at night, just to let everybody know exactly where I came from. You know, my mother's big fat hairy meat pie with the top of my head coming out of a hole, covered in pussy phlegm, mixed in with blood as it stretches and tears the labia, as a turd curls out of her anus with the force of the strain. Push! You know, played repeatedly on loop over and over until everyone starts to do the same in celebration of having come from the exact same place as each other. Our mother's cunt. I might have to be. Yeah, there was also some that have been delivered by C-section. You know, I want to be more inclusive, so should I say our mother's womb? All right, there we go. Our mother's womb. But there's also some that got you via test tube in a laboratory. So, you know, maybe we can have a flag with our father's balls as well, just to be more thorough. You know, choose what you want. You know, whatever you see fit. And I'll leave you with a quote that my good friend John sent me after I left his house the other week, after talking about politics and texted him to apologise, okay? The text he sent me said, fuck all politicians and fuck their parties. Man. Anyway, either way, I hope you all got what you voted for in the elections and the country starts to get better, just like it did with Brexit. Peace and love. See you all in the next episode, okay? Cheers, bye.